Alright guys, we are going to animate our color wheel. So here's my finished product. Let's jump in here and work on this in Photoshop. Alright, so in order to start this, you need to make sure that you have followed the steps to get here. We simplified our color wheel, and basically each layer that we want to animate is just a simple single layer, and we converted it to a smart object, so we have whittled down our complex project into just 5 simple layers. Alright, next step, we are going to go ahead and open up our timeline window. So that's going to open up down below here. It becomes a little bit difficult, at least with my screen resolution, to be able to kind of see everything, but you've got your timeline down here and your document up here. You can still show and hide and edit your document. The timeline is where we're going to create the actual animation over the course of the time that we have set. So you technically have 2 options here, frame animation or video timeline. We're going to just click video timeline, and that's going to take all of your layers from your document and put them right down here onto the timeline feature right here. So let's take a look at this quick before we really actually create any animation. So you have each layer here, obviously, and I'm going to show you can expand and show some of the different features with that layer. Here's our actual timeline. So we have 5 seconds worth of time, which is going to be perfect. I'm not going to mess with that for my GIF. 5 seconds works, and this is your playhead. So obviously nothing happens right now because I don't have any animation, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to set what's called keyframes for some of these layers across my timeline, and it's going to create my animation across for 5 seconds. Okay, and you can also zoom in and out of your timeline. I'm just going to keep it pretty much set here so that it can see the whole 5 seconds, because I'm not going to get super detailed with this. Alright, so first thing, I'm going to go ahead and hit the little arrow to show the different options on my layer that I've selected. I'm going to hide the other layers too, just temporarily, so that I can see what's happening. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. So I want to get this wheel to kind of rotate and spin around. You can have it do really whatever you want. I'm going to do a rotation. So I'm going to have my playhead set to the first frame all the way over here on the left, and I'm going to go ahead and hit this transform, and it's going to automatically add this little diamond right here, which is a key frame. So the way that keyframes work is you basically say, this is where I want it on this frame, and then you move the playhead over to the next frame that you want to do something. So in this case, I'm going to go halfway through, and I'm going to choose to create another keyframe. If I click the keyframe button right now, it's going to add one, and nothing's going to happen because I haven't moved anything or done anything. So I'm going to remove that keyframe. You can click again here. And when we modify our image up above, we can hit enter and then add a keyframe. So I have my playhead where I want it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it. So halfway through the animation, I want it to be about 180 degrees. So I'm going to hold shift so it kind of locks into that 180 degree mark. And once I'm comfortable, if I just hit enter on the keyboard, it's going to automatically add that keyframe for me down there. And then I'm simply going to go over to the end of my 5-second animation, the last frame, and I'm going to continue that rotation. So I'm going to go up here again with my move tool. I'm rotating this around, hold down shift so it kind of locks in there for you, and I'm back up to where I started. Hit enter one more time, and I have animated my first layer. If I hit play over here, it's going to scrub through that animation, and you can see it kind of scrolling through. So the computer does all the work, kind of taking it from one keyframe to another and puts in all of the proper subframes to that. So I've animated my first layer. Go ahead and hit stop. Let's try one more down below on my primary colors. So I'm going to go ahead and show my primary color area. I'm going to select this layer first off so that I know I'm editing that one. And I'm going to do, I could do the same exact thing, I could spin it, but I'm going to try something a little different. So what I want to do is halfway through the animation here, the same keyframe, I want to have it zoomed out to the size. In the beginning, I want to have it hidden behind the wheel, and it's going to kind of pop out from there. So I'm going to go to this, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit my transform, and it's going to add that keyframe right in there. So that's where it's going to be halfway through. And I'm going to go back to the beginning, and so what I'm going to do now is zoom out first off so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to take this entire area, I'm going to hide this whole layer. If I hold down Alt, it's going to stay centered. And I'm going to put that completely behind the wheel right there. So it's going to be totally hidden pretty much behind that. Shrink that in there a little bit more, nudge it up so it's totally hidden behind the wheel. Okay, good enough. And once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to hit Enter, and it adds a new keyframe there. So now if I scrub through on my playhead, that color is going to zoom out and pop out at that point. I could continue along with this. I could go back to the end here, since right now it just kind of stops there and does nothing. If I wanted to go back to hiding it at the end, I would just go to the end of my animation, put my playhead there, hide this back behind the color wheel, zoom that back in. Again, with my screen resolution, it's a little difficult to see this. Put it in there, hit Enter, and there we go. So now when I hit play, you're going to see it expands out from the color wheel, hits that keyframe in the middle, and then goes right back behind the color wheel. So that's basically how you're going to do it. I'm not going to go back and animate the other layers, but you're going to continue working your way down the document, adding your keyframes, animating as you see fit. Experiment, try some different things in it. If you don't like a keyframe and you want to get rid of something, you can always click on that keyframe where it is, and then if you hit the little diamond shape, whoops, my playhead was at the wrong spot. I guess you have to have your playhead there. Let's find out. Let's click on this one. Can I right click? You can right click and hit delete. I could get rid of that one. So if you ever get a keyframe in there that you don't want, it looks like you can right click and delete it from there. Okay, when you are done with your animation, to get this exported, of course you can save this Photoshop file. You can always go back and edit your animation, but once you're happy with what you've created, you're going to go up to File, you're going to go to Export, you're going to go to Export As, Save for Web, and you're going to get this pop-up window here. It's going to process your animation, and you're going to find out if you didn't change it to 72 and you left it at 300, it's going to take a while to process. And we have that, and I think you can preview it here. There you go. You hit a preview. It's going to process a little bit and give you a preview, but it should be pretty much the same thing that you saw. Oops, sorry, it's going over here in my browser. So there we go. It previews what's happening on the animation, and when you're happy, you just hit the save button and it's going to download your GIF. So there you go. Have some fun with it. You add all of your layers to the timeline down here, and then start adding your keyframes and experimenting with what you can do. All right, guys, have fun.